Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So obviously a week or so ago, Conor Benn continued his comeback following his PED failure back in 2022. Of course, Conor Benn still doesn't have a license in the UK, that's not cleared up, but he's been fighting in America, fighting lower level guys in his last two fights. So he's on his comeback trail, and for my money, hasn't really looked impressive. You know, the fight against Peter Dobson was actually quite close. Not close, but competitive, I would say. And, you know, Peter Dobson is not a top 50 welterweight as far as I'm concerned. But after that fight, you know, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, etc., Conor Benn himself, the boxing world have been talking about Conor's next fight or potential next opponents. And once again, so much talk about Conor Benn, but the potential opponents or the opponents being mentioned for Conor Benn once again leads me to believe that Eddie Hearn doesn't really see Conor Benn as a elite fighter, elite talent, a guy who he can build organically, as in going through these step-ups, intermediate step-ups each and every time. Instead, Eddie Hearn is talking about fights with faded legends like Manny Pacquiao, who is, 45 now, something like that. Talking about fights with Kell Brook, a guy who has been retired, had his face smashed twice, etc. These are the sort of fights Eddie Hearn is mentioning for Conor Benn. Failing that, he's mentioning crazy weight discrepancy cash-out fights against the likes of Chris Eubank Jr., of course. Now he's talking about Gervonta Davis, who, despite being smaller, I believe he would still beat Conor Benn, by the way. And there's no signs of taking Conor Benn on a traditional route. And when I say traditional route, I don't even mean British, Commonwealth, European, world level. I mean just taking incremental step-ups against decent guys who can ask questions, guys who are in their prime at welterweight, you know? I'm not talking about the elite of the elite either. Why is there no talk about Conor Benn versus Mario Barros, for example? Mario Barros, as we know, isn't an elite welterweight, but he's at a certain level. He's decent enough. He's solid. You know, he's got experience. He's tough. That would be a good fight for Conor Benn if Matchroom were looking to take Conor Benn and improve him as a fighter to try and get him to world level so that he could stay there. But that obviously, let's be honest, this has been apparent for a long time. That's not the case with Conor Benn. Eddie Hearn realises what he has in Conor Benn, a name, and that's really it. A name. The son of Nigel Benn. That's all Eddie Hearn has in Conor Benn. Conor Benn is an average fighter, as far as I'm concerned. Very, very average. And, you know, the matchmaking of Conor Benn kind of confirms that to me. It confirms that Matchroom don't really have any faith in Conor Benn in regards to beating his peers. You know, guys who are active now in the welterweight division, who are at a certain level. We're not just talking about world level guys either. Like I said, we're talking about guys like Mario Barros, who is probably fringe world level. Even guys like David Avanesian. We couldn't get Avanesian anywhere near Conor Benn. You know? These are the sort of fights. If a promoter is serious about a fighter, about a prospect, these are the sort of fights he takes. Conor Benn never took those fights. For obvious reasons, he's not that good. So here we are in a situation with Conor Benn. He's basically just an attraction. He's a name. And that's why we're getting fed with these absolute nonsense fights against guys who are retired, like Kell Brook, like Manny Pacquiao, or against guys that don't make sense in terms of weight, Gervonta Davis and Chris Eubank Jr. Those fights would generate a lot of interest because obviously Eubank's a big name, Gervonta Davis is a big name. Combine that with Conor Benn, those fights make a lot of money, there's no doubt about it. You know, Conor Benn is basically a circus at this point in time, and that's his selling point, aside from being the son of Nigel Benn. But there's no real belief in this guy as a fighter. I would say Eddie Hearn is selling fool's gold, but the reality is most boxing fans don't rate Conor. They don't rate Conor. There's a small section of like matchroom cultists who rate the guy, but I don't think anybody with a keen eye particularly sees Conor Benn as having a high ceiling. And yeah, that's why we are where we are. If you're expecting competitive fights from Conor Benn, they're not going to happen. Like fights as in 50-50 fights against guys in their prime at welterweight. Those fights are not going to happen. You're either going to get Conor Benn feasting on the corpses of retired fighters, like Kell Brook, like Manny Pacquiao, or he's going to try and take these circus fights with the likes of Tank Davis or Chris Eubank Jr. And where I'm at with this now, I've realised this for a long time, obviously, but where I'm at with it, I'm just sick of I just wish they were honest about it. You know how Mikey Garcia, he was honest about his career, which I rated. He always said he didn't really like boxing. He was just in it for the money. He wasn't in it for legacy. He was in it to earn a living. He just stuck with it because he was good at it, basically. And I'd rather Conor Benn at this point in time just come out and say that, because his career, man, has been so fucking dull. So boring. Like, any time we've asked for a fight, always been told no. You know, whether it be domestically against the likes of Josh Kelly or Michael McKinson, whether it be European level against the likes of David Avanesian. These are the sort of fights us cunts who watch YouTube boxing videos like this, these are the sort of fights we want. We want to see a guy take these fights on the come up. But Conor Benn's not a serious boxer. He's basically, well, he's a celebrity boxer at the end of the day. That's all he is. He's basically Ryan Garcia, but even worse, in my opinion. At least Ryan fought Gervonta Davis, despite how he quit in that fight. He's fighting Devin Haney. You know, guys in and around his weight, in his era. As much as I dislike Ryan, at least Conor Benn's worse. Conor Benn's worse. He's a circus act, as far as I'm concerned. And listen, you know, there's something out there for everybody. If that's for you, that's fine. If you find entertainment in that, that's totally fine. But I wish, you know, the people surrounding Conor Benn would just be a little more honest about it, because it's so transparent, right? It's so transparent what's going on here. Basically, Matchroom are mis-selling this guy. They're trying to sell him as this serious fighter who'll fight anyone, this, that and the third, but we know he and they don't care about legacy in regards to Conor Benn. That's not Conor Benn's forte. That's not in his MO. It's not in Matchroom's MO. Their MO is just to put together some nonsense fight, some circus fight, and that's really going to be it. And yeah, listen, there may be a place for a guy like that in boxing, who knows, but just be honest about it, is what I say. Stop mis-selling Conor Benn to the public. Yeah, I'm just kind of getting sick of these talks about Tank and whatnot. It is what it is. Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.